Welcome on in to the Utah Blockcast. I almost forgot what I was saying. I think cold weather last night has left me feeling a little some kind of way. I'm Steve Bartle, Utah insider for KSL Sports, joined tonight by the fellas, Josh Bennett, Tyson Moll, Beck. Fellas, how we doing?
Football's still fun. Football got fun 2 weeks ago, and it's still pretty fun. So I'm happy.
How are you feeling?
It is definitely good to have fun again. It's great to double rain games, 2 rain games in a row, having fun. Maybe there's something to this. Just saying.
Are you saying we should be hoping for rain the rest of the way? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying rain, dampier. I'm just saying, I don't know. There's something here. I don't know what it is, but I'm doing my own research.
Bennett, you braved the elements. How you feeling, dude?
I'm still cold.
Yeah, they kept talking about it on the broadcast. They were like 3 hours ago, it was 40 degrees warmer than it is right now. And, that plus sideways rain is about as bad as it can get.
It was rough.
I couldn't move my thumbs to push tweets. Like at one point I just started screaming into the phone to just share some quick thoughts, like can't type as the caption. Definitely most of the game, no feeling in the fingers and toes. So it was cold. It was cold.
That's what you want. That's what you want when you're watching football, right? You just don't want to feel your fingers, don't want to feel your toes. That's when you know you're in prime football season.
Yeah, football weather. But no, that feels good. Feels good to. I think when Sam Levitt news broke, the biggest question was how's Utah's offense going to look against a stingy Arizona State defense? That was the measuring stick that you needed to take a look at that point. And
thank God that defense didn't show up.
Yeah, for real, dude.
Yeah, imagine if Levitt played linebacker. It would have been different.
Would have made a big impact. Obviously coming off the 42-10 win, Utah over Arizona State, pretty impressive all around performance by Utah, offensively, defensively. Devon Dampier looked dynamic. We'll talk a lot about him. That is the basis of today's show, is recapping the game. And also, we're going to get the vibe check on the Big 12 Conference. This was a pretty wild weekend, and we've got the vibe master, Beck, to help us talk through the Big 12 picture, right? So we'll get into that a little bit later, but and then obviously with it being rivalry week, we'll take a first look at the rivalry game and that matchup, which is, man, big. It's a big one. But first, before we get into the conversation, a few announcements. Obviously, we've got our Lodge hat giveaway, so we'll get that announced here. Let me get this up here. Got Dylan Crockett with a 41-13 prediction. He is our Lodge 33 hat winner this weekend. So we'll get that organized, get that hat out to him. Shout out to Dylan. It's been a lot of fun to do these hat giveaways. Getting a lot of hats out this season. It's been fun. It's been cool to connect with everybody. So shout out to Dylan. There were a lot of actually really good guesses. A lot of people guessed the Arizona State score correctly, but I don't think too many people saw 42 points on the board for Utah, especially. And I think a couple people pointed it out that just given the conditions, it was hard to see a high scoring game. And I think a lot of people, felt the same way. So, it's a credit to Utah for going out and taking care of business in the crappy conditions and all that. But Dylan, you're the winner this week with a 41-13 prediction. Nobody got it right on the nose, but you came the closest. So shout out to you. And then also want to make sure we shout out our Blockhead helmet sticker winner this week, week 7, Dallin Bentley. going back, watching film on the game, Bentley was an absolute monster, blocking on the edge. They did some fun things with him out of the backfield, whether he was the lead block in some inside zone type runs. He was leading and had a couple key kick out blocks. Just did a lot of fun things. And there were a couple blocks where, he got up and he was fired up, played with a lot of physicality. And obviously he's emerged as a go-to target for Devon Dampier, and that's been fantastic. But I think we need to show a little bit more appreciation for what Bentley's doing, as a blocker as well. He's turned into a really fantastic player for Utah. So Dallin Bentley gets the blockhead helmet sticker this week, and it'll be fun to see who gets it next week. But fellas, let's dive into the conversation. Utah again coming off 42-10 win. Obviously, there's context to dive into. Bennett, you kind of alluded to it, the Sam Levitt news. I thought that was the biggest question going into the game, was how real was that report initially when he was listed as doubtful? How serious was it? I think Kyle Whittingham is, giving us all a little PTSD maybe with injury report around the cornerback position.
Or just, if not PTSD, we've been just like gaslit into submission as a fan base that we're like, no, it's totally normal for coaches to lie about the health of players. And everyone else is like, what are you talking about? Who does that benefit? Why do that?
Well, dude, Dillingham has said, he wants to shape things around the way Kyle Whittingham's built the program. So what better opportunity than to give him a taste of his own medicine?
That would have been the final evolution from
the final
Kenny Dillingham,
final gemstone.
Yeah,
final gemstone, the Thanos for the Infinity Gauntlet. Just the
Whittingham
Gauntlet is what it is.
This conference has a WWE partnership of sorts, right? Like, what better storyline?
He's listed as doubtful, listed as out on Friday. Mini miracle happens overnight, Friday to Saturday, and he's playing. Anyways, again, thanks a lot, Kyle, for conditioning to react this way to quarterback injury news. Just a good time. But anyways,
I don't know what this says about me or what but it's one of those things where I'm like, oh man, my ex-girlfriend and Kyle Whittingham are the two people who have emotionally damaged me the most in the past 2 decades. Thanks a lot for that, coach.
Dude, and everybody is gonna hear that and be like, yeah.
Cheers, brother.
Amen, dude. Preach. Oh man. So all right. So obviously, again, there's context to consider, with this win, given the fact that Sam Levitt didn't play in this one. But just throwing it around to you guys, how should we feel about this win for Utah knocking off Arizona State?
You should feel great. You should feel incredible. A ranked team coming into your house. First of all, that hasn't happened before with the win, right? Like that was said a bunch of times on the broadcast. It was said a bunch of times beforehand. But even this season, right? Texas Tech came in. You kind of laid an egg, especially offensively. To not do that is incredible. To not do that in the rain is incredible. To not do that in the rain against what was supposed to be a great run defense and one of the better ones in the conference is even more incredible. And then to have your defense, obviously still play well, but with Sam Levitt out, do what they need to do. But having the offense was the big question mark and always has been. And, is Utah's comfortable place to be as a football program. But I think they should be ecstatic.
Yeah. I mean, all you can do is, play who's in front of you. There's no hypotheticals going on here. When there's no what if Sam Levitt plays, Sam Levitt didn't play. And Utah put up 42 points, and they only gave up 10 to the 21st ranked team in the country. There's not a lot more you can want from that. All the stuff coming out that Utah had, depending on who's ranking it, anywhere from number 1 to number 4 most efficient offense in the country last night. There's literally nothing else nothing else more you could want from that game.
Yeah, and the convincing manner in which Utah won the game got to feel good about that if you're a fan, right? You win one of those games like 17-13 or something like that. You're just sitting there thinking like, what's going on? What is Utah? 42-10. Like, no matter how you chop that up, that's a nice win. With or without Levitt, 32-point difference maker, probably not. Utah maybe puts a little bit less points on the board. Arizona State maybe puts a little more points on the board, but hard to imagine a 32-point swing there. And you got a lot of questions answered on the offensive side of things, and defensively too. Albeit no Sam Levitt, Jordan Tyson bottled up for the most part yesterday.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
40 yards, like
Arizona State's. I mean, Arizona State is good at backup, though. I mean, Sims came in and played really well, and like made some great throws actually, and like obviously very dangerous on the ground, like he was. I feel like Utah has backup quarterback problems sometimes. We joked about it before, right? Like, and so having them play really well against them, despite him, I think overall, frankly, playing as well as he could have given the circumstances, Utah looked really good.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think Bennett, you kind of brought up, there were questions about coming into the game. We got some answers, and I think one of those answers was Devon Dampier and his health and what he would look like, with some rest, with the bye week. We know that he was injured for the Texas Tech game. It was really limited. He was really limited in terms of what he could do athletically. And I think we got an answer that, yes, there was a difference. There is a difference with, what we saw in that game versus what we saw when he's 100% athletically. Did some things last night that just, I can't wrap my head around some of the tackles that he avoided, the way he was able to change directions, to juke, to jump cut, and make guys miss in a phone booth was really impressive. And so, we got some answers there with Devon Dampier finishing, with 120 yards, 3 touchdowns, leading the way for Utah on the ground, generating 276 yards, just really impressive. I thought that obviously was the big key for Utah, having Dampier healthy and seeing what, him actually being healthy, actually looks like.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that too, and that like maybe is obvious, but we put so much stake into what coaches are saying of how guys look and feel, and like this whole season, not being super familiar with Devon as being that he's a transfer into the program.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard to know what you're seeing and kind of what to know as real. And last night felt like the first time we were seeing the real Devon Dampier on the ground, or Dampier on the ground, and watching him, the way he changed direction, his burst, and his acceleration, and just his top end speed. It didn't feel like we've seen anything quite like that so far. And maybe that's just my, perception as Utah was running away with the game or whatever, but he definitely looked healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that too. And one thing is the vision that he has, even in like those phone booth kind of plays. Like I think it was his touchdown, the 24-yard one. He disappeared for like a solid 2 to 3 seconds. I think it was behind. Was it behind Togiai or was it behind Moko?
It was behind Moko.
It was behind Moko, but like he kind of disappears for a second, and then you thought he might have gotten down like maybe 2 or 3 times, and their guys like look like they could have got to him. And then all of a sudden he's just darting diagonally across the field for a 24-yard touchdown. Like that those kind of like vision runs, especially using, everybody's made the jokes about Devon's height. Every opposing team has made the jokes about Devon's height. Look what happens when he uses it. I'm just going to stick right here behind my 6'5", 320-pound offensive lineman. You don't know I'm back here until I'm gone, until I'm coming out the other way. Like, I feel like that kind of vision was something we, like Cam said, we hadn't really seen this year. Maybe seen like glimpses that it is there, but this is kind of the first time in the last few weeks that he's been fully healthy. So yeah,
or fully confident at least.
That too.
Right? Like, and maybe it was as much that just that he is feeling healthy and finally feeling like he's feeling healthy and confident enough to make those types of quick decisions and see those windows and any way you slice it. He looked really great and looked like I think everything you were hoping he would look like. And again, against a defense that was leading the conference in rushing yards per game allowed. And yeah, really, really phenomenal work.
Yeah, and we touch on a lot of the attributes, and another one I want to point out was balance. Like his balance, ability to just stay up, like when other guys might fall or give up. I want to say it was his third touchdown run where he was just kind of like stumbling his way in and took it in the end zone. But yeah, no, fully healthy Dampier is awesome, and along the lines of health, you got a rain game on the turf, things are slippery. Playing a physical game of football to come out of that with, I believe, no big injuries, that feels like a win in and of itself.
Yeah, I can't think of anything. Watching the amount of water they were moving off of that turf was really crazy. Getting a lot of chats. I mean, it's hard to, if you weren't here in Utah or here in the Valley or, God forbid, in the stadium, it's hard to kind of overstate how much water there was coming down and how bad the lightning was in the Valley. And like, I really am shocked that like I put a movie on a couple hours before the game, not like with Bree, because I was just like, there's no way this game's going to start on time. And like watching it as the game time was coming on, like, well, okay, here we go. I guess we're doing this.
Steve, we can't hear you.
We got no audio of you, Steve.
Okay, you got me now?
There it is.
Okay, all right. Oh man, the mute button on the mic actually got me. No, that was kind of the crazy thing about that, about the game was, we're up there in the press box and there's lightning right on top of us. Like it is right over the stadium, and all of it's going on an hour before, and you're just like, there's no way this game is going to kick on time. And I'm scrambling, trying to get as much information as I can as to what's going on. Normally the Utah Athletics Twitter post is already tweeting things that I'm like trying to figure out, and I'm just not looking where I should. But anyways, that's besides the point. I was hustling for information, and then all of a sudden, you see Arizona State players starting to trickle out onto the field, and then you're like, well, what's going on? And then you see some more people, you see Utah specialists come on, and so it was probably 30 minutes to kick, and all of a sudden, like, it's full on like warm-ups. Utah's out there warming up, and before you know it, the game's kicking off. It was an abbreviated warm-up. It was just kind of weird. The stadium was empty. It reminded me of COVID with the empty stadium, with the players warm up. It was just kind of a weird vibe. And then for that to not matter at all, for Utah to come out, start the game the way that they did, offense, defense, and just execute, like it was like nothing affected them. And that was, I think, really impressive, given the context of how we were going into that game. It was just kind of up in the air as to what's going to happen. And then boom, we're playing. And Utah didn't skip a beat.
Yeah, the drive back home from tailgating we packed up a little, like we left around 7, I think. But driving on the freeway through torrential downpours and just dark and gloomy, and then every probably 15 seconds, you'd see the entire sky light up. Like it was wild. I had the same thing. I was like, there's no way this game's starting at 8:15. Like zero chance. Way. And then we got back and they were like, game kickoff 8:25, and I was kind of like, only 10 minutes, really? Only 10-minute delay, like, because I wasn't anywhere near the stadium, so I didn't know how much like there was actually getting like warm-ups were going, but
right,
yeah, I thought there was no way.
Yeah, they had an abbreviated warm-up where instead of like they usually come out with about 40 minutes, do a long warm-up, then go back into the locker room with about 10 minutes to go before they come out for the final time. They just came out, stayed out, 25-minute type of warm-up, and stayed out on the field. Arizona State stuck with the traditional kind of warm-up where they came out early, went back in, and then came back out. It was just kind of a unique feel. But anyways, back to the football talk. Devon Dampier, we're talking about his athleticism. Really impressive that Utah was able to do this only completing 8 passes on the night, with one of those coming late in the fourth quarter from Bird Ficklin, who made just another great throw. Man, it's
God.
unreal, dude. It is unreal, this guy, dude. But yeah, it's really impressive. Utah was able to do this, only completing eight passes.
If you'd have told me, yesterday morning, be like, hey, Utah's only going to complete 8 passes on the day, I would just probably not watch the game at all.
Yeah.
That's not going to be good.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's like what it was last year, right? Where Utah in a rainstorm last year, the previous years, the offense is just going to be bogged down. But here we are talking about a game where Utah put up 42 points, and it was the offense just controlling things. Bennett, you pointed this out last night in the Instant React show, but 8 third downs on 7 total possessions, 7 drives that finished with touchdowns, only 8 third downs.
Yeah, and I need to correct myself. There were 8 drives, the 8th one being the drive that Ficklin was marching the team down the field, but ran out the clock. So my apologies. That's on me. There was 1 third down on that drive. So if we're talking actual drives, 7 actual drives and 7 third downs. So actually a better stat with my now correction. So not bad. And you called it out. That was one of your winning recipes, if you will. One of your winning ingredients was you wanted to see on first down, moving the ball and getting ahead in the chain game. And you saw that last night. A lot of 2nd and 2s and things like that in a not rain game, in a game where you need to score fast, it really opens up the playbook, do whatever you want.
No, it absolutely does. And again, that's a credit to what the big guys up front were doing, blocking, and this run game is it's a lot of fun with Dampier, with Wayshawn, Nakeri, and now incorporating this true freshman, Daniel Bray. What do we make of the element that he adds, and what do we sort of anticipate his role is going to be moving forward?
That kid I don't understand how he can start and stop that quickly. And not only to do that, but do that on a drenched field, like a wet field. That is so hard. His first jet sweep he had, I'm watching him, like, he's at a full sprint. I'm like, dude, slow down. You got to find your hole. And all of a sudden he's just running, 45-degree angle, and he's running straight up the field. And
choppy steps.
How did he do that?
Well, it's those Under Armour cleats. They're the technology.
Shout out to Under Armour cleats.
Yeah.
The best in the business in the rain.
But yeah,
all technology, no swag.
But yeah, the kid's just dynamic. And a couple times where it looked like he was going to get bottled up for no gain, maybe even a loss, and he ended up getting 6 yards. Like he fought for every single yard he got last night, and that's exactly what you want to see from a true freshman running back.
We've talked a lot about the speed, but there were a couple runs last night where he had to break some tackles, and that took me by surprise.
Yeah, love watching him come out of motion. He's going to draw a lot of attention on that. He's going to fake out a lot of people with that, and he's also going to take that and go far with one of them, right? To bust out a home run sweep, if you will. And no, it's been fun to watch him kind of come on in the last couple of weeks. When we were guessing, we put him at over under 50 yards, over under 5 touches. He had 5 touches for 41 yards, so a little better than 8 a pop. Like, it's efficient.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I want to switch. Oh, Cam, were you going to say something? Sorry.
No, just going to say on the broadcast, they were talking a little bit about him and his production, and at the points in the game had far more productive yards per carry than any other Utah player. And then immediately, like the next two out of the next 4 plays or something were back to him for 9 and then 11 yards or something right after that. And it was just, really a easy moment to see how special he can be, how dynamic he can be as that third guy, or and hopefully get him more touches even than that. But great to see that type of depth of talent on this team.
Yeah, I think it really encouraging, to hear Kyle Whittingham talk about his desire to get him even more involved moving forward. I think, this is a process for these freshmen, right? I saw a question about why hasn't Utah used Bray all season long, and it can be a process. Coming to the college level, coaches need to trust you that you can execute, and so in some instances, what coaches will do, they'll give these players specific assignments, specific, responsibilities in terms of what they're asked to do. And once they show that they can master that, that's when you start to see them get onto the field. And what we've seen so far through the 2 games that we've had Bray, get touches is this jet sweep. And I think getting him comfortable in that action, at this level with this speed that he's competing against now, I think, there's probably been a bit of an adjustment period for him, but now, he's had the time to get acclimated to everything. He's obviously been with the program since January, but I think, it's a process to get these guys, these true freshmen specifically, to a point where you can trust them on the field physically, assignment wise, all of the above. So I think that's sort of been the process with Bray, but let's switch to the other side of the ball. Cam, I want to start with you. Defensive secondary. I felt watching it live like this was a really good performance in what we were seeing from Snowden, from Scooby. He had the great PBU to start the game, getting tested vertically. What did you make of the defensive secondary's performance?
Yeah, it seemed like you mentioned to start the game, the great PBU, and it seemed like Arizona State was seeing what we were seeing, that this is not a Utah secondary like we've maybe seen in the past, or maybe a weaker one than we've seen, and it's the part of the defense they clearly wanted to attack. Even with the backup quarterback taking that shot early, kind of really showed that, and Utah stepped up, played really well. I mean, Smith Snowden really obviously the standout, had a really fantastic game. His one penalty was really kind of a phantom penalty. Dude. It's hard to really understand what they were seeing there, but definitely the strongest game by the defensive backfield that we've seen so far. I think Cotton had a really good game as well, with a little bit more experience there, was looking good on the outside. And again, hard to say precisely how challenging it was for them. Again, it's always a good time to get guys experience. So when, the backup quarterback is playing against you and you've got a nice lead at home. So great to see that, but also it looked like they played well. So even if it is, because of the circumstances of Levitt being out, it's still great to have, to see that group perform so well.
Tyson, I want to throw this one to you. Jackson Benny playing at safety. What did you make of him and how he handled that spot? It looked like, he was really comfortable there.
Yeah, I thought he looked great. He had a couple of plays where and so close to another pick too.
Yeah. Yep.
Just so close. They didn't show a single replay of it,
dude,
on the broadcast. So I have no clue. It looked really close. Like he might have gotten it, but like they did not show one single replay.
We need to talk about replays. Oh, you read body language?
I just read the body language on that one. He kind of knew, but it looked like it was a pick. But yeah, they didn't even show it in stadium for replay.
Dude, they didn't show the stadium, and now they didn't show it on the broadcast. We need to talk about replays specifically at the University of Utah at Rice-Eccles Stadium. What the hell do we got to do to figure out the replays, both in terms of what's being called on the field with these referees, but just replays in general? Like, we need a better replay system, dude.
It's part of the home field advantage. Like, show the footage. So, yeah.
Anyways, but yeah, Tyson, I agree. I thought Benny looked comfortable, almost had the pick, he tackled well as well. And
really well.
Yeah. So look good. Bennett, throw this one to you. Defensive line. How would you assess what we saw from the tackles and defensive ends?
Yeah, I thought it was a solid performance up front. A lot of pressure last night. You had, Bono and John Henry Daly alone, 10 pressures, 5 sacks by the D. It felt like everybody was getting sacks. but also was kind of surprised to see that number at the end. It's like, oh wow, 5 sacks. It was really good. Arizona State wasn't able to really get anything going offensively, and it started up front. It started with that pressure. They weren't able to get a run game. Sims seemingly had somebody in his face all night. It really allowed this Utah defense to put a stamp on this one.
Yeah, I think getting healthy. We talked about Dampier, how much better he looked, but I thought having Aliki Vamahi, having Dallas Vakalahi available for 20 snaps and whatever he played, I thought that was really beneficial for the defensive line, but just the defense in general to kind of control things. So I think overall, we feel like the defense is trending in the right direction? Do we feel like we're seeing progress and meaningful progress moving forward?
Absolutely.
I think so. I think there's probably also a little bit of I don't want to say like a big decline in the offenses. They're maybe they're seeing.
Sure.
They've been the benefits of some things for certain, but I would say trending in the right direction. It'll be interesting to see next couple of weeks how quickly that trend how high up that trend has been, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'd say that next week, maybe not the biggest test for the defense as far as what the opponent brings offensively, but the 2 weeks after that, Colorado, a lot of talent on that side of the ball. Maybe not as physical up front, but there's a lot of playmakers on that offense. And then Cincinnati, they're able to do some things offensively at times, a little slower this past weekend, only putting up 20 on UCF, but defense absolutely trending in the right direction. I think coming into this one, the big question mark was, how's the secondary going to do against Jordan Tyson? How's Jackson Benny going to look back at safety? It looked good. Really, really thought the secondary took a nice step forward, and yeah,
I agree. All right, let's transition. Bennett, you kind of brought up some of the other programs in the Big 12. Let's get a vibe check on the Big 12 conference. With now that we're into week 7 already, is that where we're at? Week 7. We just completed week 7. We're into week 8 now. That's insane. The season is flying by, and this past weekend in particular was kind of a wild one. So I think this is a good opportunity to kind of assess, which direction programs are trending. And I think this should be a fun conversation. So I think it's fair to start with Texas Tech at the top, and they're trending in whichever direction they want because there's no threat to them right now.
Not even close to one.
Not even.
Yeah,
close.
it's kind of like how the universe is expanding, but we can't ever measure how quickly or we don't know where the end of it is, and so that's where Texas Tech is right now compared to everybody else.
Just so
It's
many
like that,
billions and billions.
It's like that. I can't remember his name. I think his first name's Pete, but that comedian is and it's infinite nothingness, and the infinite nothingness is expanding. So the edge is getting farther away that we can't even measure to. Exactly where Texas Tech's going. I just butchered that entire thing too. It felt much funnier
Tyson.
in my head.
Yeah.
It sounded so much funnier in my head.
I thought it was funny.
I
laughed.
Thanks.
Yeah, as long as you can laugh at it, that's all that matters, dude.
Hilarious.
Ask
We'll laugh
Kendra,
with you.
dude. I laugh at myself all the time. That's what's important.
They clocked in at 7th in the country in the new AP poll, but I have a hard time naming 4 teams better than them, right? I think they're probably that 4th or 5th best team in the country. They're playing really good football, and it's not just quality of opponent. It's just they look good on both sides of the ball.
Well, and I think they are. I think they're getting knocked a little bit on quality of opponent, which I think is kind of silly because one of the things I wanted to maybe mention and that I've just been saying is that I think every conference right now is just not that good. I don't think any conference is very good at the top. Depending on how you feel about Ohio State, depending on how you feel about Alabama right now, it doesn't seem like watching Oregon and Indiana last night, it's just okay, so wait, the Big Ten is good because Oregon beat Indiana beat Penn State, or beat Oregon, who beat Penn State, who lost to UCLA and Northwestern. I don't know. I think everyone might just be kind of okay right now, and it'll make for an interesting playoff, and obviously interesting to see how the second half of the season changes. But like, I think Texas Tech, I think Utah for that matter, its only loss being to Texas Tech, deserve to both be ranked higher, because I think the Big 12 is probably getting a bad shake where every conference is just not great at the moment.
I think
that's almost struggling with Washington State. That's all I wanted to quickly say. Like, and they're all the way up there. Like, that was not a good look.
I think Bud Elliott today tweeted out in the SP Plus that the difference between 1st and 17th is 1 score. But the difference between 1st and 17th in 2019 was 3 scores. Like, that's how much everything's tightened up just in the last,
it's cool.
5-6 years.
It's a lot of it's a lot of parity that you love to see, right? Like, that's really cool. And I think it makes sense. I think you're seeing it. I think there's a lot of teams losing games that we're not expecting. There's a lot of teams who just don't seem to be as good as maybe we're expecting. I don't know. We'll be eager to see what kind of changes and where those things settle in the next few weeks. But it feels like every conference maybe has 1, maybe 2 real good teams. And that there's a lot of teams kind of in that second tier of pretty good, will make the playoff or can make the playoff, and like see who can do some damage. Because I don't know that there's any single great team this year that's just going to definitely kill everyone.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think we've seen the top kind of come back to earth, and the parity and the competitive advantages that programs like Georgia and Clemson and Alabama had, just being able to stockpile all of that talent. Now it's being spread across the country to all types of programs because of NIL and because of revenue sharing. And we've seen, this is the product. This is the impact. We've seen more parity. We've seen more competitiveness. And I'm glad that you brought up the Pac-12, Cam, because that was the biggest knock against the Pac-12 conference was the parity and the competitiveness. And to hear it all now, like, be promoted as this great thing, it's just like, 2 birds to you guys out there now, banging this horn, like, whatever, dude, shut up. It's
the Big 12 is just doing exactly what the Pac-12 did for years and years. It was just cannibalized itself.
So lame, dude.
That's all that's happening.
So yeah, hopefully Texas Tech can continue to stay in the conversation at the top, among the top teams in the country. And I think they're playing the type of football that they should be able to do exactly that. They're playing great on both sides of the ball. We'll see what happens with Baylor Morton. He had another injury, but it seems to be minor. Honestly, I would just be like, hey, Baron, take a week. Okay. We've got this other kid. We'll see how it goes, but take a break. Okay.
Yeah. Like, I mean, Hammond didn't throw the ball well at all, but
no, he didn't.
He still had 61 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Like, it's not like he came in and played bad.
No. Yeah. So anyways, enough Texas Tech. This is not a Texas Tech pod. We're still a Notre Dame pod, though. Don't forget that. It's
only when they're not broke.
They won big. They won big this week. We're back up. We're back up.
We're back up, baby. All right. Let's talk Big 12 picture and just kind of vibe with some programs. So Texas Tech, obviously, like I said, in a tier of their own. I would say, who would you guys say is trending up the most right now in terms of the Big 12 race? Is it Cincinnati? Is it Utah? Is it BYU? Who's trending up the most right now?
I think it's Cincinnati.
I agree.
I think that's the only right answer.
They're the biggest surprise, so they had the most room to trend up.
Yeah, I think
that's what I'm saying. That's kind of what I'm saying here.
Yep.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that otherwise I think Utah feels like a good one. I don't want to pick Colorado, but I think they've been looking a lot better than I expected. Or at least hanging in games that they maybe didn't used to hang into, or that I didn't expect them to. They seem to be doing fine despite losing Shedeur and Travis, or seem to be competing at roughly the same level.
Yeah.
Uh, on the other hand, BYU is kind of the opposite end of that, where I see them winning those games, but in ways that you don't expect them to have to win. And so, it's kind of an idea of like, how long will this last? It feels like that's plateauing a little bit personally, just based on what I've seen there. So it'll be curious to see, obviously.
I'm glad that you brought up Colorado. It was interesting watching that game because I think Iowa State is also a program that's sort of trending down, and that's more a product of the injuries and the health that they're kind of going through and experiencing right now. The lack of health, I should say. They've lost a number of key pieces, but they've got a quarterback in Rocco Beck who I think gives them a chance to win games, on their schedule the rest of the way. But that's a program that I think is trending down from where they started the year. Obviously, they started out hot with a number of big wins. They've now lost, I think, 2 straight, Cincinnati and now Colorado. Watching that game with Colorado, it's clear like they've got talent, right? They've got so much talent, but there is still just that sort of unorganized, undisciplined, I don't want to call it a style, but there's just that undisciplined brand of ball that I think, against a team like Iowa State who plays very disciplined, who plays organized and is, is keeping it on the tracks essentially. They're going to be competitive and they're going to have a chance to win off to knock off a team like Colorado. But just given the talent on that Colorado roster, they can beat just about anybody on the in the Big 12. I think it's just again the lack of discipline and detail, attention to detail. I think is what holds Colorado back from me like wanting to buy in more on the Buffs.
Yeah, I think if Dion can ever figure out the coaching part of being a coach and not the recruiting part, I think they're going to be in a good spot. But you can't argue against what he's doing on the getting talented guys in part, and so developing those guys or building team cohesion and all those things that coaches do. If he can figure that out, that's a lot of the hard part. But there, frankly, it feels like kind of maybe on the right track. If that is something he's willing to, I don't know that that's something he wants to do. If that's ever his brand, right? Like if his experiment ever works, though, it does feel like they're doing something. Something's on the right track there.
Yeah,
I don't know. Hard to say.
Yeah, no, I feel like they're definitely a little bit more balanced offensively, defensively than they were last year, right? They were just so pass heavy with Shedeur last year. They feel a little bit more balanced, but again, just the lack of detail in that. Bennett, I'll throw this one to you. TCU, they're in free, are they in free fall? It feels like Josh Hoover's just forgotten how to play quarterback.
Something. They definitely looked really good through the first 3 games. Looked like they might be, one of those contenders, but a loss against Kansas State doesn't feel great, doesn't look great. But also, while we're talking trends, like Kansas State's getting a little bit tougher each week. Like they might be in one of those lower tiers in the conference for sure, but they might be a little bit tougher than anticipated on November 22nd when they travel to Rice-Eccles.
Yeah, no, given the win this week over TCU, and then the way that they were close against Baylor last week, and those are 2 teams that they're built to thrive against. I think Kansas is starting to figure it out, but I still think there's some big question marks with their ability to stop the run. TCU is just allergic to the run, but yeah. Anyways, Tyson, what are your thoughts on TCU and the Big 12 in general?
I don't have a ton of thoughts on TCU. I haven't watched a single second of them this year. I've just been looking at the scores.
Valid,
but yeah, I think it's Texas Tech and everybody else. I mean, you can throw a second tier. But I don't know. The gap between tier 2 and 4 is probably smaller than the gap between 1 and 2 right now.
Yeah,
I'd agree.
Like Texas Tech's just on another level. So, Utah just needs to keep doing what they're doing, and get back, get a rematch. You want a second crack at them? Go get it.
How do we feel like Utah stacks up in the Big 12 right now?
I think they're number 2. I'd put them at number 2 in the power rankings right now.
I mean, it's hard when there's, 3 other teams ahead of them in the conference, like at least in the conference it's rankings itself. But yeah, I feel similarly. It beat BYU this week and feel much better about claiming that with that result behind you. But I'd say that, but I do think that gap is pretty big right now, and that Utah's got some room to grow before they can feel good about a rematch.
Feel dirty saying it, but Utah's given Texas Tech the best run for their money this season. Score doesn't say that. The final score, losing by 24, doesn't allude to that for people that didn't watch that game. But to be down 3 points with 8.5 minutes to go, like Texas Tech hasn't been playing into the fourth quarter like at all this season. They're still very clearly number 1. I'd say number 2 is up for grabs in Provo this weekend, and then you kind of just from there you await that Utah Cincinnati matchup on November 1st. But I think Tyson put it great where he said that gap between say 2 to 4 tiers 2 to 4 much tighter than the gap from tier 1 to 2.
Yeah, I thought Tyson said it best that just don't watch TCU. Anyways, Josh or Bennett, you brought up BYU, and let's dive into that. Let's transition out of the Big 12 talk and talk about just kind of a quick first look at the rivalry game this week. Bennett, I'll throw it to you. Where are you at with this game and excitement level, what you're looking for, and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, no, definitely excited for this. It's a big opportunity. Might throw out, this is the biggest BYU Utah game made with everything, the way college football is headed. Like this might be the biggest one ever. Like I hate to speak in such extreme, but there's a lot at stake. And for Utah, this is a really, really important win. I'd say even more so for Utah than for BYU. You drop a third in a row to BYU. You look at some of the in-state recruiting things. Not a good trend to set there for BYU. You look at just enjoyability on this timeline or that timeline. A Utah win would make things a little more enjoyable. And no, but it's going to be a sight down in Provo this upcoming weekend. Big noon kickoff making its way back. It'll be interesting to see what kind of content gets put out. It'll be interesting to see what kind of barstool presence is there. I don't know. I think it's great though to have this game put on a national spotlight, front and center. I think the rivalry might be back a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And this is, again, just to make this point, first time since 2009, Utah and BYU are ranked in this matchup, in a rivalry game. So it's been a minute since both teams were ranked. Obviously, big noon kickoff coming back to Utah. Like you said, it'll be interesting to see the barstool presence and how prominent it is down there in Provo. If it's present there at all in Provo, we'll see. But yeah, certainly interesting with that. Tyson, what do you make of the matchup specifically in the trenches? That's where I want to pick your brains. What do you feel? How do you feel about the matchup in the trenches?
I mean, it's tough to not feel good as a Utah fan with the way the offensive line has played the last two games since the Texas Tech game, and then watching and seeing not necessarily how explosive or I don't know, really unstoppable that the BYU's defensive line has been. Like they just haven't been like at a level that you would, I guess, expect out of them.
Yeah.
At least from the past few seasons, like it just doesn't seem like there's a lot going on the defensive line right now. So like I feel about as comfortable as I can with Utah's offensive line. The little bit I've watched of BYU's offensive line has been fine. Nothing really has popped out at me. I think the biggest thing is Utah's defensive tackles are going to need to have a good game to have Utah do what they want to do. A lot of BYU's big plays, especially in the run game, are LJ Martin kind of up the middle and Bear Bachmeier kind of going up the middle too. A lot of draws, a lot of QB power, a lot of RPOs, that kind of stuff. But the D tackle is getting, taking up a lot of space and eating up a lot of blocks and freeing up, Lander and Jono and John Henry Daly and Logan Fauna to kind of do what they do is going to be big. And I feel pretty confident there too. Not as confident as Utah's offensive line, but still pretty confident.
Cam, I'll throw this one to you. What are you looking forward to with this game? What are you, I shouldn't say looking forward to, but maybe most interested in, and what do you feel is going to be important for Utah?
I think that I think that Bennett kind of nailed it in the sense of the drama of the rivalry is obviously such a big factor. But I think that there's been so many tea leaves about Kyle Whittingham leaving and so much around that there's some speculation that I think I'm bought into that, one of the things he feels he needs to do before he can hang it up is not have his season end on a loss to BYU. And I think that, I've heard some people who believe, and I might be one of them, who, if he had beat BYU last year, that he might have hung it up. And I think that's kind of the thing I'm most interested in is this, how this game affects that larger storyline of, because knowing what we know about Kyle Whittingham and how much this rivalry means to him personally and how much it's meant to his legacy here at the program, it's hard to imagine him leaving with anything but a win in that game.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you there, and certainly be interesting, and we'll dive into the matchup and the specifics and the position battles and all of the drama of the past and the history of it throughout the week. I'm looking forward to this game. This has been a game that obviously it's taken on such greater value and importance in this state now with both programs being in the Big 12. Bennett, you talked about it. It getting the opportunity to be on the national stage with Big Noon Kickoff coming, I think is significant. And for this game to be in the middle of October, there was a lot of criticism about the placement of that game. I think it's great because you've got two teams contending for the top of the Big 12 conference. You don't want this game at the end of the season where you've got to then turn around and prepare for a Big 12 championship game. You want these two teams contending at the top and having this game in the middle of the year, because this is a big game. This game is the type that it takes a toll. It takes a physical toll, mental toll, emotional toll. There is going to be a tax that is required. That you're going to see it the week after. There is just going to be a tax on these guys. It is just a significant game. With it being placed in the middle of the season, I am curious to see, how different it feels once we get to Saturday. But this is a big game for so many different reasons, and you guys have all kind of touched on them. I think Tyson, to your point, in terms of the scheme and the personnel, I think Utah should feel confident. But BYU is also going to come into this feeling confident about what they're doing offensively and how they match up with Utah. So it's going to be interesting to dive more and more into this. But I think this is going to be a great test, and again, a top 25 matchup for the first time since 2009. It's going to be wild. So, fellas, let's go ahead. Let's wrap this up. Any final thoughts before we put a bow on it?
Yeah, I have one. 47 isn't a cute number for a quarterback. It's disgusting and shameful, and he should grow up.
Couldn't agree more.
You're not wrong.